Report. All right, here we go. Good morning and welcome everyone. Welcome all of you online. My name is Tracy Irby and I am the director at the Center for Women Entrepreneurs. For those of you who are here for the first time, welcome. I know we have some new people in the room and I'm sure we do online as well. So the Center for Women Entrepreneurs was funded by the state legislature in 2015 just to help promote women entrepreneurs anywhere in the state of Texas. You don't have to be affiliated with the university system to take advantage of our services. We are part of the larger Jane Nelson Institute for Women's Leadership at Texas Women's University. They are dedicated to preparing more women to take on successful roles in business and public service. There's 3 specialized centers: our Center for Women Entrepreneurs, Center for Student Leadership, and Center for Women in Government. We ensure women have the education to establish careers as successful executives, skills for building entrepreneurial businesses, and the framework needed to run for public office. If you're new in here, we have a nice exhibit hall about women in government if you want to pop in there if you've never visited it before. So welcome. I want everyone to know who our staff is. So I'm Tracy Irby. We have Donalisa Stinyard. She's the one who got us started this morning. We have Kimberly Nielsen. She is our hostess on Zoom, and Christina, our small business advisor, is on there as well. Barbara's out today, so I'm going to monitor Facebook as well for those of you that are on there. We always like to know who is in the room, and this goes for you online as well. We're going to go around the room. If everybody could introduce themselves quickly, and while we have mics loud enough so those online can hear us as well. And all of you who are online, you can put your business in the chat so everybody in there can see who you are as well. So let's go ahead and get started. Liberty. Oh.
Okay, you're starting with me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Liberty, and I'm with Loving Events.
Great, welcome.
Hello, my name is Carmen Friday, and I'm the owner of Cooking with Carmen.
Welcome.
Morning, I'm Heather Walker, and I own Bright Smiles by Heather. It's a tooth whitening studio right here on downtown Denton Square.
Good morning, I'm Hannah McGinty. I'm the owner of Heart Media and Modern and More. We do events for videography.
Hi, I'm Dorota Mularczyk and I teach financial education to women. My company is WellPay.
Hi, I'm Katrina Stoffer. I'm a broker for a national insurance agency specializing in helping families protect their legacies, specifically through life insurance and retirement planning.
I am Ann Morgeson. I am a certified health coach and I help individuals reclaim their health.
Hi, I'm Susan Whitmer. I'm a yoga teacher, and I'm developing an online yoga presence called Sunrise Susan Yoga.
Great, thank you, all of you. So again, all of you online, put your information in the chat. And I'll go ahead and get us started today. We have with us Michelle Jolivet. Pretty close. Michelle is the founder and president of DEI Recruiting and Consulting, an organization focused on promoting inclusion and diversity in the workforce. Michelle's engaging and informative presentations have a lasting impact on her audience, inspiring positive change and promoting a more inclusive workplace culture. With over 3 decades of experience in various leadership positions, including director of company operations, division and regional director of ops with Fortune 500 companies, Michelle is a seasoned professional with a wealth of knowledge and expertise. She holds a bachelor's degree in business, an associate degree in communications, a diversity and inclusion certification from Cornell University, a professional of human resources, PHR certification, and a Green Belt certification in Lean Six Sigma. So Michelle, we're so happy to have you here today.
So let's move forward. I really appreciate, I'll wait for this to come in. I really appreciate everyone coming in. I know it's spring break and of course we had the time change. So I really appreciate it, but hopefully everyone's got their coffee and we can get started. And I know as small business owners, entrepreneurs, a lot of times you are experts in your business, whether it's photography, whether it's food, whether it's dentistry. But we might not understand and know about the human side, the HR side, the people side. You might struggle with what are the compliance issues? What are the regulations? How do I run a job posting? How do I hire somebody? How do I fire somebody? Those are things that you just may not have experience at. So we're going to go through today a little bit about all of those things and hopefully give you some basics to help you understand how to attract, hire, retain, and motivate top talent, because that is the key for you able to escalate and scale your business up. It's one thing when you run it by yourself, but if you really want to grow your business, you've got to be able to hire and move forward with different folks. So, oops, I got to go this direction. Right.
Did we turn it on?
How do we do that? Oh,
There we go.
the power button. Technical issues. So why is HR important to your small business? I'll tell you that normally when you're running a small business as an entrepreneur, your biggest cost is going to be, your biggest operating cost is going to be your people side of your business, is hiring people and maintaining people. So you've got to be able to control those costs. It's also your most important resource. When we talk about, that your employees are going to be in front of your customers and or your clients, they have to represent you and represent you well. So they're going to decide the success of your business. It would be great if you could just do it all by yourself, but you're not going to be able to scale your business and move your business forward without people. So the most important resource you have is the people that you hire or work with you. It's also, unfortunately, your biggest liability from a risk perspective. I will tell you, I just read yesterday, the EEOC put out that discrimination lawsuits are up 50% from 2022 to 2023. They did $655 million last year in 2023 of discrimination and or wrongful termination lawsuits. And small business owners can get affected by that. Average discrimination lawsuit runs about $40,000, but they can certainly go into the millions. And I know most of us don't have $40,000 sitting in the bank, ready to, to handle either a unemployment claim and or, which won't cost you $40,000, but a wrongful termination claim or getting sued for something like that, discrimination. So it's really important that you have systems in place and policies and procedures that will help mitigate that risk for you. So that's what we kind of want to talk about today. We're going to talk about, how do I attract top talent? How do I hire people? How do I go through the interviewing process? What's the difference between a contract employee and a W-2 employee? Because legality-wise, there is a difference. And a lot of times you think, well, it's just going to be easier for me to hire someone from a contract perspective because then I don't have to pay those payroll taxes. Yeah, be real careful about that. And then we'll talk about, how do I retain and how do I develop policies and procedures? How do I handle performance management, like writing a review or performance management? And then what are some of the HR compliance issues that we may have? What are some of the regulations and laws that you need to be aware of? And then what are different HR partners that you can set your small business up with? What are the different ways that you can use HR to help you? So let's talk about attracting top talent. First off, what are job seekers looking for today? These are the top things that they really are looking for. I will tell you that job seekers want remote or hybrid. If you do remote or hybrid, you have a much higher likelihood of attracting folks. Now, you have to look at your business model and say, what can I do and what I can't do? But if you can figure out a way, if I need an administrator and they can do that hybrid, where they come into the office 2 days a week and then they work from home maybe 2 days a week, then that is going to help you attract a much bigger workforce. So if you can figure it out into your model, try to think a little bit non-traditional and how can I create a hybrid or a remote workforce? So I really want you to think about that. Work-life balance is so critical. A lot of us are entrepreneurs because we wanted a better work-life balance. And I will tell you that all the different generations, but especially Generation X, the latchkey kids and baby boomers, we are very much into, I want a work-life balance. So you've got to be able to work with your team in regards to, how do I, ensure that I am asking you to do your job, but I am allowing you to do it in the time that you need to do it. Instead of saying, I have to be here at 7 a.m. and you have to leave at 5 p.m. Can they come in on this day at 9 because they've got to take their kids here? Can they come in at this day on this time? How can I work with them to give them the balance where it is no big deal to go to the dentist? It is no big deal to go to the gym and do my yoga, whatever it is that I need to do, that I allow them that flexibility as long as the task and the job is done. So you want to think from that mentality and get out of our old mentality of you must work 9 to 5. Diverse and inclusive work culture. Generation Z, 83% of them will look at your website and see whether you are a diverse and inclusive work culture. If you are not, they will not even apply for the job. So when they're looking at big corporate jobs, they look on their website. If they don't see a diverse leadership team, they won't even apply for the job because they don't think they'll fit in there. That is that important to them. Even more, they want to be paid competitively, but that's even more important to them is that they're making a difference and they're in a place where their values are matched. For them, it is all about their values and how they look at the world, and they want to work for a place where they will be valued and they are aligned with your values. So you need to have a mission, vision, and values. Upskilling, are you doing training? Are you helping your employees get to the next level? Gig economy, does anyone know what the gig economy is? How would you describe the gig economy?
Uber, Lyft,
Yeah.
things that have no benefits.
40% of Generation Z employees that are working right now full-time have a second job. 40%. You have to be okay with the gig economy. You have to know that they're going to have a second job out there. And how do I make that work for me and to my advantage when you're looking at your business model? Okay, it's important. Competitive compensation and benefits. You don't have to have the most pay. That's not the most important, but you do need to be competitive. And I would tell you, a lot of us that are a little bit older, I'm more tenured in the years. I always thought, well, if I started off at, $7 an hour, I don't know why they can't start off. Why are they looking for all of this money? The cost of living today is so much higher for young people than what we and my generation ever went through. They can't even begin to think about buying a home and having those things, and just paying rent and what an apartment runs. For me, it was $300 to $500 when I came out of college. It's now $1,800 to $2,000 for an apartment, and they're not making that much more than what I made 20 or 30 years ago. So you have to be competitive and understand that they need that money in order to just move out of the house with mom. And that's all they want. They just really want to move out of the house. And as somebody that has kids sometimes at home, I just want them to move out. And then we talk about they're very purpose driven in that. So when we're looking at Generation Z, especially, very purpose driven, they have to know what your purpose of your business is and how they align with that. From an employer perspective, how do I attract? I've got to be able to talk about on my website and when I'm doing interviews about what I do, how I do it, and why I do it. You've got to have your mission, vision, and values. You have to have a compelling job description. When I'm doing a job posting, so often what I see is people just put out a job description of this is the job. That's not going to attract. There are 9 million open jobs out there right now, and there are about 3 million people looking for an open job. That's a 6 million variant delta. So if you're looking at that, you have a lot of people, especially when we're looking at entry level and service level, that they can work anywhere they want. You have to get them to come to work for you. You have to know how to market your job postings. Your pay needs to be transparent. 70% of people won't even come and look at your job posting if you don't have the pay on there. They just won't even apply for it. So if you just put pay negotiable, they're not going to even apply. So you've already knocked out 70%. So you've got to be transparent about what you're paying. And that you have to have a brand on your website. You have to have a website that says, I want to come work here. Okay, all this makes sense of what top talent is looking for. Here is a sample job posting. And I want to give you this because I want you to be able to see the difference. Like, remember in the old days, if I wanted to hire a cook, I would say, I'm looking for a cook. He or she needs to be able to do blah, 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 have 2 years experience, boom. And here are my benefits and, 401k, and we pay nothing. Okay, nowadays, instead, it is about here, get to know us here at T-Mobile. We have plenty of room to grow. We like to have fun at work. We're about integrity. We like to amaze our customers. See how this job posting is all about really selling the company and why I want to come work for this company. It's about attracting people to come and be interested in that job. And then toward the middle, I start talking about the summary of what the person is or what the job is. But really, more importantly, is I want you to come work for me. And this is why you should want to come work for me, because this is the kind of company and organization we are. Summary of position, we need people that have amazing customer service. It doesn't say I need 4 years of customer service. It says, I just want you to have amazing customer service skills. We want to offer you best in class training. I want enthusiastic professionals. So you really want to look at those types of words that really impact folks. And what we're going to do is we're going to offer you internal growth and development. And then instead of saying you have to have a college degree, you must have a high school diploma and or equivalent. See how it's really pulling that down and not really knocking people out by saying you have to have this degree or you have to have that degree. Instead, you have to have relevant experience. It's great if you have wireless experience, but all I'm really looking for is at least a year in amazing retail sales experience. And that's not even a must. You got to be able to approach and greet customers in public. You've got to participate in learning and training. You have to be able to adhere to retail hours. I mean, that's the truth. You got to be able to do retail, and you have to have an ability and a willingness to work the days and nights and weekends is a must. So it's really pulling it down and saying, these are what the actual critical skills are. I need someone who's enthusiastic with customer service and that can work these hours, but I'm doing it in a very positive way. Does that make sense how we're doing this? And, here are my benefits and the things that we have. Any questions? I mean, do you see how that job posting is very different than what you see in the past? This is the kind of job posting that will get the attention of retail if you're looking for entry-level employees. This is what you need to do to try to attract them. It's okay to use ChatGPT. If y'all are okay, can I say write these kinds of things? You can sit there and tell ChatGPT, use AI. It's to save you time. Trust me. Write your job description out the way that you would write it. Put it in ChatGPT and say, I want you to write it to appeal and appear enthusiastic. And it will write it and it will tell you it will put all those words in there for you. Okay, so it can help you if it's not your skill. It's okay if you don't have the skills at doing something to use technology to help you from that perspective. And ChatGPT can help you with that. Okay, any questions on that job post? Does that make sense?
Yes.
How we're looking at it a little bit differently? Okay, whoopsie, went too far. Oh, I went too far. How do I come back? Oh, there we go. Interviewing. Okay, so when you're doing interviewing, if you haven't ever done interviewing before, it's really critical that we want to mitigate the bias. And we all think we're not biased, but we all have bias. That's just the truth out there is we have bias. It's like when, I was just talking to Donna Lisa, she was in the military, I was in the military. So when I see a resume that comes across my desk and it has military, I'm like, oh, you know what? They're going to be great at teamwork. They're going to be on time. They're going to be action oriented. They're going to be mission driven. I make all these assumptions instead of actually doing the interview. So it's real critical, not that those are bad assumptions because it's normally true, but it's not always true. So we all make assumptions about people based on our experience. So to mitigate that, it's really critical when you do a job posting and you're doing interviews that you really look at what are the critical skills and competencies needed for that job, and then structure those interview questions around it. Instead of just hiring with my gut. When someone says I hire with my gut, the first thing is I tell them is what you're doing is you're hiring with your bias, not your gut. Okay. You want to hire based on structured questions of what are the skills needed to do this job? I need someone who's great with customer service. My questions should be about customer service. There's several different types of interview questions you can do, but there's what we call behavioral questions and or situational questions. So situational questions would be when I go to someone and I say, what would you do if? What would you do if the fryer caught on fire? You know, and you would ask them and they would tell you. And so you ask those kinds of questions. You can ask very specific questions. You have those listed. I love behavioral questions. Behavioral questions are tell me about a time when, because you'll be amazed what people will tell you when you ask them to say, tell me about a time when. I had a gentleman, I said, tell me about a time when you disagreed with your boss, because what I was looking for was someone that, you know, was not afraid to speak up. And so I wanted them to say a time they did that. And he rolled his eyes and he goes, I can't even count how many times. It's hundreds. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm not sure that I was looking for that. But you will be amazed what people will tell you when you ask them, tell me about a time when, and they'll try to tell you more. They'll kind of direct it and they'll say, well, this is what I would do. No. Tell me about a time when you did this. Tell me about a time when you had a customer that was angry at you and how you handled it. Give me a very specific incident. And then you'll find out how they handle those situations. You're nodding your head. Have you done that? What, you've gotten some interesting.
A lot of interesting.
But you want to be structured in it doesn't mean so that you're asking everybody that you're interviewing the same questions and you're getting that way you can make a good decision in regards to it, that you're not just, you know, BSing your way through interviewing and doing it with your gut, that you're really being structured in regards to how we're doing it. Be careful of the illegal questions. There are a lot, I can't go through all of them, but you don't want to ask about, you know, whether they have a car or not. You can ask whether they can get to work or not, but you can't ask them about whether they have a car. No, that's illegal. You can't ask them about their previous salary. What did you make at your last job? You can in Texas, but you can't in other states. So I would just say, don't ask. Instead, just ask, what are you looking to make? What is your range that you want to make? You can't ask about family status. You can't ask if they're married. You can't ask if they have kids. And you certainly can't ask about medical conditions. What you can have is you can say, these are the physical attributes needed to do this job. You need to be able to stand. You need to be able to sit. You need to be able to lift, 30 pounds at least 3 times. Can you meet those without accommodations? If you need accommodations, what accommodations can we give you to get to be able to do that? Okay, does that make sense? And there are a whole list of illegal questions, but those are some of the main ones that you want to be very, very careful. Definitely not ask about family status, definitely not about transportation or medical. And then at the end of the interview, what we tend to do is okay, I really like this person. Great, I'll hire you. You can start on Friday. See you later. At that point, you need to sell your organization. You need to get them excited about working for you. Give you an example. My stepdaughter, I love her, but she's a Generation Z. She was telling me about a job interview she had on Monday. She accepted the job. She was so excited about it. And then on Tuesday, she goes, oh, I did another job interview today. So why did you do another job interview today? She goes, well, you never know. There might be something better out there. She came back. She loved that job. She said, I'm starting that one on Friday. My other one I was supposed to start on Saturday. And I said, on Saturday, did you call that other place? And they never called me back to even check on me until Saturday to see if I was coming in or not. And I said, I'm just telling you that the younger generation needs a little bit more feedback, a little bit more follow through, and a little bit more of get me excited about the job. I want you to come work for me, Kenna. I am so excited you're joining our organization. I'm going to give you a holler on Wednesday to really talk about what we're going to do on Friday. That kind of follow through. Doesn't have to be long, but it does need to be, and y'all know, you college students right now, right? This is what they just need a little, this is your TikTok generation. And they're used to immediate feedback. When I send out something, I get immediate feedback. So when they do something at work, what do they want? Immediate feedback. When I write a paper at school, what do I want? Immediate feedback. It doesn't have to be 30 minutes, but it needs to be, hey, great job on that email. I really liked it. You did a good job. That's what they're looking for. If you don't give them that, they assume that they've done a poor job. Okay. Whereas baby boomers, I'm a baby boomer. We assume if I don't talk to my boss all year, that I've done a great job because you haven't bothered me. And so therefore, I feel like if I don't talk to someone, but that's exactly the opposite of what this generation is. And so you have to know that each person that works for you is an individual. And you have to ask them, what kind of feedback? How much do you need? And ask them what they're looking for. Because, even though they may fit into a category of Generation Z or Boomer or X or whatever they are, doesn't mean they'll necessarily fit into that category. Everybody is an individual. So treat them as that and ask them what they're looking for and what they need. But in general, Generation Z, the younger generation, will need a lot more feedback, a lot more purpose. Okay. So you've got to be able to sell them before they leave, and you've got to follow up, follow up, follow up. Everything's got to move fast for them. They will not wait 2 weeks for you. If let's say you ran a job posting and they applied and you decided a week later that I'm going to interview them, it's too late. They've already blown you off. You need to be very immediate about responding to job applicants. And you need to get back with them. You need to follow up on a quick manner. Now, if you're interviewing for the president of a company, it's going to be a lot different. When we're talking about entry-level employees, we're talking about moving fast, because I promise you, they're interviewing with more than one person, and they didn't stop interviewing just because you made them a job offer. Okay. Move quickly, tech savvy, phone capable. What I mean by that is, when you post a job, like say on the web, on your website, let's say you did that, can I apply for it on my phone? If I am a Generation Z and I can't apply for the job on my phone, I just didn't apply for it. So you've got to be tech savvy. If you're asking me to fill in a whole bunch of stuff, you lost me about line 4. What you asked me is, can I download a resume and it will parse into the system? That's what I'm looking for. Needs to be tech savvy. If it's not tech savvy, they're going to get frustrated and they're going to go somewhere else. Why would I go work for this company? They're terribly inefficient. And we are. Okay. So this is Generation Z? What are your thoughts? Liberty? What do you?
I've been seeing a lot of applicants that you can text us this number and apply.
Yeah.
And that's how they apply, like, hey, I want to be hired, and that's their application.
Yeah.
I've been seeing a lot of that in the workforce, and
Yeah.
I'm just amazed.
But we as employers, if you want to scale your business, have to adapt to the generation that you're hiring for. This is your generation that's coming up. This is your workforce. Generation Z is about 26, 27 years old right now. Generation Alpha is right behind them, and they're even worse than the other one. I think Generation Z is going to be the greatest generation ever. I think the millennials and the Generation Z will change the world because they are purpose driven, and they are about making the world a better place. And they want to make sure that the companies where they spend their money and they spend their time are aligned with their values, which is very different. When I looked at a job when I was growing up, I was just like, how much will I make? What will be my job title? What's the 401k? How does it look on my resume? Those were the things that were important to me. That is not what is important to them. And you just need to know that going in. And then how do I align my business so that I can attract those employees? So I align my business with creating purpose. My business has purpose. How does that purpose help them? So phone capable, move quickly, don't dilly-dally in the interview process. It won't work for you. Any questions on interviewing? All right. Contract employee, W-2 employee. So I hear a lot of entrepreneurs that say, I want to hire somebody, I'll just hire them in as a contractor. That's a lot easier. I don't have to pay payroll taxes on that. A client of mine just got a letter from TWC, Texas Workforce Commission, with a fine of $65,000 because she had, for the last 2 years, defined her employees as contractors. And they said they should have been W-2. So you need to go now back and pay all your back taxes for them, payroll taxes, plus all the fees and late fees and everything else, and lawyer fees. Okay. So there is no black and white that this is absolutely a contract employee and this is absolutely a W-2 employee. But there are general statements that you can look at that will help you understand the difference of the two. So when you think of a contract employee, think of a roofer, okay? So if I hire someone, a roofer, to come and work on my house, he or she will set their own hours. I don't tell them, other than, hey, they'll tell you I can start next Monday, but I don't tell them that they have to be here at 9. If they want to come at 9 or at 10, they decide. I don't decide what time they come. They hire their own staff. I don't tell them who to hire. They can bring in whoever they want. It doesn't mean that the person that I hired is the one that's actually going to be up on my roof. It is his or her team that will be up on my roof. They can work for many people. Okay, so they don't just work for me. They provide their own tools and their supplies, okay, and their own staff. They are only liable to complete the work that was in the contract that we signed, nothing more. I'm not hiring them just to come work on my roof as long as I want them to work on my roof. This is the time frame of what I want you to complete. I want a new roof, and once that's done, the contract is over. And then they're paid on completion of that contract, in comparison to a W-2 employee. So if you're telling someone that they're a contract employee, but you give them a schedule and say you have to work from this time to that time, that's not a contract employee. If you tell them you can only work for me, or you're working 40 hours for me a week and you really don't have time to work for anybody, that's not necessarily a contract employee. If I'm supplying them tools, meaning that I'm giving them an email, I'm giving them a phone number, I'm giving them tools, maybe a laptop or any other type of tools and or training, then they're a W-2. They're an employee. They're not a contractor. See the difference in that, I'm not providing tools to the roofer. I'm not telling them how to put on a roof. If you have a contractor that works for you and you're giving them an email and you're telling them how to do their job, then you're providing them direction and training, then they're an employee in general, okay? They have the right to quit if you're paying them on a regular basis. Most likely they're an employee. You can't pay a contractor. There's no black and white. I'm not a lawyer, I'm telling you that, but if they are paid at the end of the contract after they perform their tasks, that makes them a contract employee. If you're paying them every 2 weeks, that sounds more like a W-2, like an employee. Does that make sense? So I can't sit there and say, I want someone to do IT for me on my company, and I'm going to use a contractor, but they need to be in the office on Mondays. I'm going to give them an email address so that everybody can contact them. We need to be able to utilize them. They need to be in meetings. I'm giving them the handbook, and I am training them about what our company is. That makes them a W-2 employee. And you have to pay payroll taxes. Any questions on the difference? Do you see how, as anyone, I hear all the time entrepreneurs say, I'm using them as a contractor. Like I had a friend that was doing contractor. They had a house where they were doing elderly care in a home. And they said the people in the house that are working in the house are contract employees. And I said, how are they contract employees? And well, I'm just using them as contract. And I said, but do they have a schedule? And they go, yeah. Do you train them? Yeah. Do they have, do you give them direction? Yeah. They're a W-2. You're going to get, eventually the IRS and Texas Workforce Commission is going to come back and catch you on that. And you're going to end up paying back taxes. There's no one rule that this is or isn't, but it's a series of rules that say that, but what questions do you have? I mean, does anyone have any challenges right now? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, the first challenges that I'm looking at hiring a virtual assistant and they would be regular. You feel like she's gonna be a contractor, but you feel like that's more on the W-2.
Are you giving them any tools?
They're
Meaning,
gonna have education. So,
you're getting pretty close.
yeah, I know.
Are you giving them a regular schedule? Do they have to be,
No,
can they work for other people?
they can't.
It's a little shaky. I'd be real careful about the tools. That's one, again, there's no one rule that takes you there. It's a series of rules.
Okay.
Okay? And so there's no one rule that if they don't do this, then they are. It's a series of criteria that they look at. Yes, ma'am.
So what about if we get into like housekeeping and nanny? Maybe that's like more outside of things, but like, are those also?
Well, like,
contracted
when you
or-
think about a housekeeper, to me, a housekeeper, they come whenever they want. They can work for anybody they want. You pay them on completion of work. So that definitely feels like a contractor. You're not giving them the tools, and they usually bring their own stuff. I mean, they may use some of your cleaning material, but
Right,
they normally bring their own, they have their own special vacuum cleaners and stuff. So
yeah.
now nanny, that's a little bit challenging because you are talking about a regular,
Schedule.
a regular schedule. I'm telling you when, I'm giving you direction. I'm paying you on a regular basis. We're doing this over a long period of time. Can they work for multiple people or can they only work for you? Are you using them full time? So that one feels a little bit, that's a little bit more challenging, Vince. Okay, any other questions?
You had one online, Michelle. They were asking about VAs, virtual assistants. Did we talk about that? And I missed
Yeah,
it.
yeah, just that it depends again. Are you providing them tools and direction? Are you allowing them to work for other folks? Is it on completion of work or is it, you're gonna work for me for the next 2 years? There's no specific contract. It's just, you're just working for me in general. They're just working for you in general. Kind of feels like a W-2. Okay, but again, just feels, there's no black and white rule. Okay?
I posted the IRS link as well.
Perfect, yeah, okay, because you just want to be careful, because I don't want you to get caught with back taxes, because that is a lot worse, trust me, than just paying it up front. Okay, and possible issues with, with wrongful termination and all of those kinds of things, and unemployment and all of that. If I didn't pay unemployment taxes and then I let them go, and then they came back and said they were a W-2 employee, now you got to go back and pay their unemployment and all of those things. So it becomes a lot more challenging. Okay, any other questions? If you have questions, there are 2 links. She just posted the IRS. There's also one on Texas Workforce Commission that they have what is an employee versus a contractor. Okay. Retention. How do I hold on to people? How do I keep them? Well, we really want to make sure that certainly from an onboarding perspective, that you get people in your staff excited about working. Do I have an onboarding process, or do I just throw them in? Do I actually train them and give them the tools and the direction they need to be successful? Is it tech driven and efficient? If it's not, again, Generation Z will not be happy. I'll see you next week, and they never come back. Are you competitive with your compensation and want to look at your total rewards? What we call total rewards means, do you offer other things, 401k, benefits, all of those things? All of those add into your total. Do I offer PTO? Do I offer medical? Those kinds of things. That gives you total rewards. If you're competing with companies that are offering a bigger amount of rewards, then you're going to be competing with different kinds of just not dollars. But remember, if I can get competitive with pay, and then I can hit on great work-life balance, maybe hybrid work, great culture, inclusion, upskilling, I can do all of those things. Then I don't have to pay the highest because I'm doing all of these other things. People want to work for a place where they enjoy where they work, and they feel like they're doing something. So it's really about the total package. Continuous feedback and communication. They really want to make sure that they build trust with you. Trust is so important with employees. There's one thing that you really want to have, is that when you say you're going to do something, do it. Okay. When you say you're not going to do something, don't do it. They need to be able to trust you. And then you start that trust. Often we come in more with that attitude of, I will trust them when I feel like I can trust that employee. Trust the employee, and you have to build the trust first. You have to build the trust. You have to be vulnerable. And then they will come to trust you. And that's the more important piece. Recognition and reward program. Like, oh, I don't have the money or the time to do recognition and reward. Little things make a huge difference, i.e., you want the recognition that you give them, any kind of rewards. They don't have to do big bonuses. It can be as simple as, I know that Liberty loves Starbucks. And so I'm going to give her she did a great job on that project. I'm going to give you a $10 Starbucks card in front of the entire team, because I know that it's personal to you, that it's important to you. And when it's important to you, then you'll see that I took the time to do something that was something that you value. If it was a big bonus and I knew that you like to travel, maybe I get you a cruise for 2 people. I spend, $500 and do one of those little cruises. I give you an experience, especially with Generation Z. They love experience more than they love money. So if I give you a great experience, I want you to think about, what are the little things my employees love? What's important to them? Is it a foot massage? Then give them, a coupon for a foot massage. It's that little thing that you do that really makes a difference, because it says, I value you as an individual and I'm going to give you something. It doesn't have to be a lot of money, just needs to be very personal, but also public, that in the public, I'm going to do it in front of everybody, that I'm going to give you this, this reward because you did that. Does that make sense? So reward and recognition, personal, immediate, and personal and immediate. I would say those are the 2 things. They don't have to be a lot of money. They can be little things. It can be an afternoon off. I mean, can you imagine? Sometimes that's all I needed, was just an afternoon off. You know what? You're going to get the afternoon off. I'm going to pay you to take tomorrow off. How wonderful would that be? You need to have development and mentoring programs. So what are you doing to train your employees? This is really important for especially Generation Z. We always look at, my generation looks at like building the resume by going up and building blocks. Generation Z looks at like a tree. If I was looking at branches, each job is a branch, and I will stay on that branch as long as I'm getting what I'm needing and I'm learning, I'm engaged, and I feel valued, and I'm making a difference. The minute I'm not, I'm going to go jump on a different branch. I'm not necessarily looking to build a blocks of a resume. I'm instead just looking to get different experiences. So as long as you're offering them great experience and you're teaching and they're learning and they're getting better at something, they'll want to stay with you. They're being valued. Okay, that's what they see as value. So what are you doing to upskill your employees, to train them, work on that next level? Perks, certainly, wellness programs, yoga, all those kinds of things, work from home, schedule flexibility is so big. If you can do unlimited vacations, if you could do, most of us are in a place where we could do sabbaticals, but if you could, it's a great way to go. If you can send them on events or take them to events, send them on a conference, anything like that. I know this place will probably not where we can afford to do those kinds of things, but down the road. But I will just tell you, work from home or work-life balance, schedule flexibility. If you can only do those things, those are the keys. Those are absolutely the keys to holding on to your employees and attracting employees. Inclusive work culture. Can I be my authentic self at work? That is so important. If I was going to only ask one question on an engagement survey, I would ask that question. Can I be my authentic self at work? Do I feel safe? And the way that people feel safe is if you are vulnerable at work. If you are vulnerable as a leader and you talk about the things that you might be vulnerable with, then they can sometimes realize that it's safe for me to talk about that. Hey, I'm really struggling with this, or I physically had a hard time with that, or mentally I'm really stressed out. This is what I'm doing to, and then they realize they can talk about that. I have a problem with dyslexia. What can I'm okay with telling people that, so that they can then say, well, I struggle with, I'm on the autism spectrum. here's what I need as an accommodation to help me. And they can talk about that freely. They can be their authentic self. 60% of you at some time in your lifetime will be on disability or will be disabled, not on disability, but will be disabled. Most of you will hide that at work. You will mask that at work. You'll mask your orientation. You'll mask your abilities. You'll mask different things from the physical because it's not okay to talk about that at work. I don't feel safe. Keep home at home. You want to create a work environment where people can be their authentic selves, which means you need to be your authentic self. Okay. Collaboration and teamwork, very, very important. What is the company's purpose and where do I fit in as an employee? I want to know the what and the how, but most importantly about the why we do what we do. That's what I want as an employee. Okay. So if I want to mitigate possibly getting unemployment claims, wrongful termination or discrimination, it's really important that you have a very clear written policy and procedures, whether those are safety procedures, whether those are procedures on how we handle paid time off, or whether, what time we come in, how we clock in, all of those kinds of things. It has to be written down. You have to have it written. If you have to document somebody for a violation, it needs to be written. What I hear over and over is people say, well, they were late. I told them 10 times not to be late and they were still late. And I said, well, where's your documentation? Where is it written? Would never happen. Anything you say verbally when it comes to court, it never happened. It's just your word against their word. And so the only way to protect yourself is to have it written down. I have a clear written policy, and when people violate that policy, I go through the process. If I go through the verbal, written, final, and then termination, that I do that fairly with every employee, meaning that if I'm going to write somebody up for being late to work, but then I don't write up this other person because, well, they had a really good reason. That's it. When you go to court, it ain't gonna fly and you're gonna lose that case. You have to be fair and consistent, and it has to be written down. You have to write it down and they have to sign it, either a witness or the actual person that you documented. And I will tell you that it impacts them differently. When you tell someone you can't be late anymore, they're like, yeah, kind of like a teenager. Yeah. The minute you write it down and they have to sign it, they're like, oh, she really means it. Write it down. As hard as it is to have those hard conversations, you need to write it down. You can't. You can hold them accountable to the contract, but if you're writing them up and documenting them, they're an employee. You can fire them for not meeting their contract, but you can't write them up. Does that make sense? Okay. Was the policy and procedure followed for all employees? That's a question you're going to get in an unemployment claim. Did you follow a process, whatever your process is? You can have any process you want. It can be 4 verbals, it can be 2 verbals, whatever it is. But whatever your process is, you need to follow it consistently every time. Documentation needs to include dates, times, specific actions, witnesses, and history. And you need to make it non-emotional. Like I see people write up, he was so angry, he really pissed me off. And I'm like, no, that's not how you write it. You can't write that. Instead, you can say in front of the customer, he rolled his eyes, turned his back, and walked away and didn't answer the customer. Think more like a policeman. I'm just a witness to what occurred. So you want to be very non-emotional about specifically what occurred that you are documenting them for. Documenting them for being rude to a customer, and here's how they were being rude. Don't make it vague, make it specific. They did this, they rolled their eyes, they walked away, they didn't take care. Instead of Tom was just angry. Okay? Very important if you want to win those litigation cases. And just in the end, we all get, if you're in the people business, if you hire employees, someday they will absolutely file unemployment or file wrongful termination or other things for you, file discrimination suit against you. If you have employees, it will eventually happen, period. No matter how good or how wonderful a person you think you are, it will happen. Okay. Policies and procedures. What policies do I need? You need an employee handbook. It needs to be clear and concise. About 30 to 40 pages is pretty normal. You want to make sure your guidelines are somewhat flexible. They need to be not to like, we only do it this way. We only do this, because then if you write it in your policies and procedures that you only do it that way, then you should only do it that way. So add some flexibility into it. Make sure that it has the tone of your core values, and definitely have it reviewed by a subject matter expert. Have it somebody in HR review through your handbook and make sure that it's a fit for what you're looking for. Okay. Non-disclosure agreement. You have to be real careful about those right now, NDAs, but you can definitely have them. What are some other ones? You might have a non-compete. Those are, you want to be very, very careful. There's a lot of things going on with FLSA, the labor piece of labor. So we really want to make sure that we are careful on those. Safety, you would have safety policy, how to handle certain equipment. Performance management, if I am writing a review on someone, I want to make sure, again, if I don't write it, it didn't happen. So you've got to write it down in their performance management. You want to make sure that you're clear and concise, that you remove any biased statements when you're talking about performance management, that you give specific details, not general. OKRs and KPIs, those are, KPIs are key performance indicators, key results. And so what we're looking at now is, instead of looking at somebody working 9 to 5, instead I give them KPIs or results I need them to accomplish. I need you to get this project done by the end of 3 weeks, period. Do it in whatever time frame, whenever you want. You can do it on a Sunday, you can do it on a Monday, but it doesn't matter to me as long as you get the job done. That's what we're looking at now, at what most employees, instead of, I want to measure my results, not my time slot. You want to make sure the goals you set are specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. SMART goals. Ongoing feedback. How often do you do your feedback? I mean, certainly yearly at the minimum, but I would definitely do monthly with all of your employees, weekly or daily as needed. Each individual is going to tell you what they're looking for. Make sure that you set those guidelines with each of your employees. Training and development, just make sure that we're looking at, that this would be just the steps you would go through. You're going to conduct an assessment. You're going to set what you want to set as your training goals. Then you're going to go through and determine what are my best methods to get me there. I'll create a plan on how we're going to get there. And then I need to invest resources and content in that training plan. So it's as simple as that when I develop my training program. And make sure that I measure and update as needed. This is just when we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. I love this little video. I'll show you just a clip of it if I can. Maybe it won't let me. But I will tell you what it is. It is some young kids, and each of them go to their teacher, say good morning, and they point to what they need. Today, I need a hug. Today, I need a smile and a hello. Today, I need a fist bump. I want you to think of your employees like that. What do they need? Each of them needs something different every day. And it's okay to ask them, what do you need? Don't look at your employees and think, all my employees need a fist bump all the time, because that's what I like. Not that I'm giving you that, but it's about understanding that each one of them is different and that we treat them as individuals. So it's about the culture of, instead of trying to get them to fit, how do I add more diversity and inclusion and experience into these? Recognize the individual, the onlyness. Each person brings a different experience into your workforce. They have different needs. The golden rule does not apply. We always say, treat others as you would be treated. Treat them as they want to be treated, not as you want to be treated. Golden rule does not apply. Let them be their authentic self. You need to be vulnerable. You need to create a safe space, and you need to celebrate their uniqueness and what they bring. You want to make sure that you develop your mission, vision, and values. I won't go into a bunch of details in regards to that, but you do need that. It needs to be on your website as well as your DE&I statement if you don't have one. Compliance, boy, there's a whole bunch on this, but I-9 audits need to be done. You need to do file audits. You need to understand what you need in there. You need ADA, you need your W-4s, you need your training. You need to understand what HIPAA is, which is medical. Any doctor's notes they bring, where do they go? How do I put them in my files? You're going to put them in a separate file. They need to be secure. All medical notes need to be secure. We need to make sure that there are certain cities and states that have specific regulations and trainings that you have to do, whether that's sexual harassment, non-discrimination, overtime training, FFLA, sick leave. Sometimes there's different cities that have different ones. If you're using employees remotely, then do you know what that city or that state specifics are? And then do you know all the laws, whether it's ADA, occupational health, whether it's the IRS, the Department of Labor, Title VII of the Civil Rights? Do you know all the different laws that apply to your workforce? There are tons. I just wrote a few down for you. You need to understand each of those. So that's why you might need an HR professional to help you with your business at times. There are different ways to do it. There's PEOs, which are professional employee organizations, and what they are is those are like organizations that will help you you pay them a monthly fee, and they have a call center that you can call and get help from an HR perspective. They'll help with documentation and things like that. The only thing I don't like about them is that you're working with a large organization. They don't know you as individuals or your employees. I like fractional HR. That's more like an accountant. You have a one-on-one person. I specifically do fractional HR. It's one way to do it. Is like I help small business owners where if they need help, like if you just need 5 hours a week of HR, you know, if you need 10 hours a week of HR, that's another option that you can look at. When you get to 75 to 100 employees, that's about the time you want to start hiring an HR specialist or an HR manager. You also need an HR system, which is payroll system like Gusto, Paycor, Bamboo, any of those. Those are called HRIS systems. And then real key takeaways, make sure clear, consistent, fair with your policies and procedures. If you didn't write it, didn't happen. Build trust and communication. And it's really critical that you establish who you are. What is your what, your how, and your why? Oh, do I have time for questions? Sorry, I rushed a little bit at the end.
Yes. Stop sharing.
I was I'm trying to do a lot of information. Sorry, I wanted to give you as much as possible.
Can we go back to the contacts?
Yes.
You will also get this information afterwards.
Oh, good.
Video.
Yeah, please, yes. I put it in a PDF so y'all can all have access to it.
Yes, I already have it and it's already loaded in the folders and yes. So really quick, I need to make Kimberly the co-host before.
Do y'all have any questions in the room? Yes, ma'am.
Sometimes we have employee who are aloof and can't open up. What's the go tip to build trust in that employee?
Building trust, you have to reach out to them and communicate to them. You have to ask them what their needs are. Are they getting what they need? Can they be themselves at work? You have to be vulnerable in front of them. You want them to be vulnerable and engaged with you. You have to do that same behavior with them. You know, I mean, everybody's an individual, but you have to figure out what motivates that person. Ask them what's important to them. Are they getting what they need? And make sure you're asking questions and really actively listening, which means when we actively listen, we listen intently, not to answer the question, but just to hear what they have to say, giving them good eye contact, leaning forward, really paying attention to them, turning off your phone and hearing them.
Kimberly, do you have any online questions?
Yes, we do have a couple there. One of them was, do you have to offer W-2 employees benefits?
No.
And is there a hiring checklist so that?
Let me say, if you are a certain size, most small businesses aren't the size, and it depends on the state that you're in. So if that person wants to send me an individual, that person send me an email and tell me about their company, I will answer that question more specifically for them. I'm sorry, go ahead.
And then the second question, Kimberly?
Well, there are two, by the way. Is there a hiring checklist?
I can put together one and send it out.
Okay. And the other one is, if you hire a one and done HR specialist, is that a 1099 position?
Yes. Yes, yes. If it's a contract, you're not giving them, you're just giving them a specific thing to do. And then once they're done, they're done.
Great.
Any more questions in here?
Awesome. Well, thank you, Michelle, so much for coming and speaking. We appreciate it very much. We'd like to give you a small. Thank you. Wow. That was awesome. Just really quick, that, the slide presentation, Michelle's contact information, the replay of the video, all of that will be sent out. It'll probably, I'll probably hold it for a little bit since she's gonna give us an HR checklist. And we'll get that out to you. And then just a couple of things. So our April Women Rise is April 9th, and we are doing email marketing, overcoming barriers to consistency and success with Tiara Abu from the CEO and founder of She Can Work. And then most of you, if you're on our email list, should have just gotten an email notifying you to save the date for our next free headshot and networking event, which is scheduled for Thursday, April 25th from 5 to 7 up here on the Denton campus. Registration will open April the 11th at 9 o'clock, and you will get an additional email with that and the button to click register now. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kimberly. I'm going to stop